Hello friends, I'm David Vos, and it's good to see everybody. I hope everybody is having a good day. Well, we're still on the subject of the alphabet because there's a lot in the alphabet. In fact, I think that this is probably just about the most advanced studies that we've had, the most revealing, the most important, because if we're Bible students, we're supposed to be studying the Bible. What does that mean? We're looking at a book, checking to see if it's got leather or, how thin the pages are. No, we're looking at the words. And especially since we call it the Word, we're all trained to say this. We understand that it's the Word. And, we all familiar with the fact that Jesus is the Word. And we explained in the last couple of videos about this word. We've expanded on that because most of us don't realize I don't think we understood all this time what Jesus meant in the 22nd chapter of Revelation when he said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, or the Aleph Tav in Hebrew. When God said, let there be, and there was, that there's a whole bunch more in there that's just waiting for us to understand that we've not, this expression, in the beginning was the Word. There's a whole lot more there than what we've been told. I don't think this has been known to human beings, to Christians for sure, in the last 500 years. Because you see, the ancient Christians were all wiped off the face of the earth, friends. We talked about this and we've talked about this. The ancient Christians, they were the knowers. And the church murdered them. It's called the Inquisitions. There were several Inquisitions, and the last one there in Spain wiped out those people that were writing the Zohar and the Kabbalah, this esoteric wisdom that we're trying to study now. When they did that, they burned the libraries. They burned them down so that we couldn't get those books. They tried to keep the truth from us. So, we've talked about how this all has something to do with astrology. The letters and the numbers, the calendar, the periodic table, the 7 planets, right? The 7, which has to do with, do you know there's 7 levels to the periodic table? And you say, oh, that's the occult. That just means the hidden. Hidden from us, because the Catholic Church did not want you to understand these ancient truths. They tried to scare you. But unless you get down and dig and find these mysteries that the Apostle Paul was talking about. He says, see how I understand the mysteries? Now even Paul says that he heard when he went into the desert and he went into the mystery schools, into the desert in Damascus, right? Remember the scroll, the Damascus document? Well, we just dug that up in 1945. It's a document about these Essenes. Remember, Jesus was a Nazarene. And it was called a sect. He was a master, and he had students, just like John the Baptist, just like Elijah before him. This was the school of the prophets, and they had been teaching these esoteric teachings. Remember when Jesus was 12 years old, they sent him down to the priest to get him educated, and the priest said, man, this guy knows letters. This guy knows the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And there's some apocryphal writings that goes into the deeper and tells you the whole story about what he told the priest and what the priest told his mom, Mary. How he understood the Aleph and the Tav and, the 7 double letters and all of this that we have not been told. Christianity's just been taught the little allegory on the top, this mythology. But getting back to stuff that's in the Bible that we didn't know what it meant, it was like, oh, it's some sort of mystery, but we didn't know the meaning. Remember John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Well, this tells us a whole lot. First of all, what God? Jesus said, your God is the devil, speaking to the Sanhedrin, speaking to the Jews. We've discussed this in several videos now, but I always have to try and go back over it a little bit as I'm talking, because somebody new might walk in here and not understand what we're talking about. But in the first chapter of Genesis, it's Elohim, plural of El, that is the all. When you study this ancient these letters, you find out that the first letter of the alphabet is Aleph. We still have this word today, aloof. It is unapproachable. Remember in the New Testament it says that our Father in heaven dwells in unapproachable light. And we're going to explain what that means. If you understand the letters, not just the words, but the roots, because see, the roots is what's creating the tree of knowledge. You've got to go back to the roots of the word, just like we talked about the 22 chromosomes. It's the serpent that winds us in the DNA that creates your body and the whole universe. And the 22 amino acids and all of this, the building blocks of life. We've got to understand each of these little building blocks. And you put them together like building blocks, like roots on a tree that's going to grow up into eternal life. There's 32 paths on this road to wisdom. So what is the word in Genesis chapter 1? We got to study this now. We've got to understand, because we've been talking about these letters and what they mean. We gave a cursive meaning for each of the letters in the last video. But now, I had somebody ask me, so what, Dave? What does that mean? What am I going to do with that? Well, we're going to explain in this video what we're going to do with that, because this is just amazing. First of all, it's going to tell us now, right off the bat now, we're going to find out which God. Because he says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Now, in John, it doesn't say, and the Word was with Yahweh. Yahweh's not in the New Testament. Jesus never said, Yahweh's my God. All he ever said was, your God, you Jews, that's not my God. And we could go into that so deep. We've gone through all the little things that Jesus said that proves beyond a doubt that he was talking about Jehovah. When he said that you've never heard my Father's voice, and that's the voice of Jehovah that they heard there. The 70 heard his voice and the voice of the 10 words, and they wrote him down on stone, and how he cursed them because they asked for water and bread. And Jesus said, I wouldn't do that. What kind of a God would give you a serpent when you ask for bread? And he's talking about this God Jehovah, and he's saying, this God's a liar, because he told you you can't learn, you can't have knowledge. But my Father is above. Now, who is his Father? That's El, the one who created the whole universe, the Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet, the unapproachable, the Father of light. You see, he's all. It's incomprehensible. He's God. There is no name for him. Only the all. Now, Yahweh, we talked about him having a name, which is the vowels. And the vowels make manifest all the letters. That's Yad, He, Vav. Those are the three vowels that bring into manifestation all of the vowels. And that's why in the second chapter of Genesis, it's Yahweh that brings all of everything into form. And he forms Adam from the dust, the elemental carnal nature. And he separates Adam and Eve. Okay, I'm just trying to go over this real quickly because I want to get to this beautiful understanding of what we're going to do with the numbers and the letters and what they mean. So the Word was with God. Which God? Well, Genesis, in the beginning, that's what we're talking about now. That's the first word, in the beginning, Bereshit. The second word is bara, create. Third word, Elohim. See, it's not Yahweh. And what's right next to with God in the beginning? Well, it's a word that it's not translated in your Bible. They don't translate it. It's there in the Hebrew, but there's no translation. It's just, you got a Hebrew, and if you look at an interlinear, you got a Hebrew word and an English word, a Hebrew word and an English word, a Hebrew word and an English word, and it goes on down. But there's just one little 2 letters, no translation. It's Aleph, Tav. And you probably know what that means. Aleph is the first letter and Tav is the last letter. That's Jesus. That's the Christ. That's the spiritual inner man that was with God from the beginning. Not only was with God from the beginning, created all things. By means of him, all things were created. That, Jesus said you and I are part of. He says, I am just the firstborn. But, among many brethren, ye are gods, and the scripture cannot be broken. I was with the Father. And Job says, we're all there. Elohim said to Job, you were there. You clapped your hands with all the children of God. You were the stars. We were the all. So right there, the fourth letter or the fourth word in the Hebrew scriptures is Aleph Tav, or the Word, with all the 22 letters encompassed. Now, why isn't it translated? Because you can't translate Aleph Tav. See, that's everything. That's us, our spiritual entirety. That's Christ who created all things. How do you translate everything? They could have just put Christ there, you and I. Well, it's there. See, it's just the translation. So what do we do then? So we see which God then. It's not Jehovah. This is El. See, it was with God, is the Aleph Tav, was with Elohim. And so the first letter is Bereshith, or that's the first word. Bereshith. B, Ra, R, Sheath, Shin, and T, Tav. So what are we going to do with the meanings of each of these letters? We talked about how the B is a house. So today we have a G that looks very similar to the original B. And the small b looks very similar too. It's kind of getting jumbled up over the ages. But English is a Hebrew language. Comes and stems from the ancient Hebrew. So it's still similar. But it's changed like 7 different times, even in the Hebrew. Right? From the earliest pictographs to the paleographic to the Aramaic, which you have to understand, Aramaic is not really Hebrew. It's totally different. Okay, and this is why there's some misplaced words and things like that. If we want to understand this, you've got to go back to the pictographic, the original language, and look at those little pictures, and you'll see the whole story there. So you see the original letter there was like a floor plan to a house with a door. Like where the G opens up, there's a door. But then it has this circle, so it's the tent, or the house. And originally that's the abode. That's why they call it Bet. And we discussed all these letters in the last video. Go and watch that one first. So Bet. And then we have Gimel, the camel that goes forward. And then we have the door, right? Dalet. And the man, hey, and he's exuberant, and he's got this revelation, he's dancing. All of these letters are very important. It's going to help us understand the whole Bible, because the translations we have do not explain. What do I mean? Well, in our Bible it says at the beginning. That's not true. That's not a true translation. It's false. We need to understand what it means in the beginning, because if it really means that there was somehow a beginning to all things, then that means there's going to be an end. You see, if you have a circle and you take and you cut that circle so that you have a beginning, you have to have an end. See, separation. But if you weld them together, you no longer have an end or a beginning. So there can't be, if we're not going to ever end, if we're going to live forever like our Lord told us, then we could not have a beginning. We were there in the beginning. What is the beginning that we were in? Well, look at the word. See, it's not supposed to be translated beginning. Now, on this circle, you do have a beginning, right? Aleph. But what's just before that? The last letter, Tav. Tav is a cross. It's just death, right? Death would be the end, right? But it's not just death. It's the beginning. It's life, because as soon as you die, you come to life. That which is made alive cannot be made alive unless first it must die, the Apostle Paul says. So you see, the serpent said to the woman, you will not just die, but you will become like God. This is what Jesus told the disciples. You're going to become one with God as I am one with God. You're going to live forever. God doesn't hate you. He loves you. That's not my Father. That wasn't his voice. That wasn't his form. You've never seen his form or heard his voice. My Father's above. So the word Bereshith starts with the house. What house? God was in a house? The whole universe started off in somebody's house? No, it's the house of the universe. It's the whole universe. It's matter. It's the physical. It's the body, the boat, the Bet, the body. And remember, this body is the temple of the living God. The El, the All, the Aluf, that which is aloof. So the second letter in the Bereshith is the R. We talked about how originally the R is that little line with a little hook, which is the bird's nose of Ra. Ra was that great phoenix eagle bird with his feathers, like that. And that was the rays of the sun, of the Ra, the radiation. See, so it's radiating, expanding. So from the house is radiation expanding. Ba, Ra. And then you have the Aleph. That's the unapproachable. B-R-A. Bara. So we have the unapproachable expanding in the house, right? And then you have the Shin, which is that crown of glory that you know, and when you go through this, all this existence, you have to have the exaltation. You get through the whole Aleph and the Tav, and you get to the second to the last letter, and then you get the crown, the Shin, the fire to ignite your chakras. And the last letter is Tav, or the T. The whole cycle is finished, and this is the covenant, or the cross. This is the end of the whole life and death process. So you see, where is the beginning? This is the whole thing. From the house as it expands and glorified and finishes its course in Tav, and the whole covenant is finished. So this is the whole existence. This is what the word means. It doesn't mean just from one beginning. You can't get something from nothing. So there couldn't have been just nothing. That's not what the word's saying. It's not saying, oh, you know, in the beginning there was nothing. You've got to understand the meaning of those little letters to understand the meaning of beginning. Beginning is not in time, some start. Beginning is that eternalness of the expanding glory of our Father in heaven, Aleph, in his radiant, raw light. You see, if you don't believe me that raw is light, radiation, just look at the Hebrew words. See, we can study these words and figure it out. Or, the eye sees light. And so it's the understanding, the spiritual understanding. And it's not just light that, you know, from the sun, but this is light from the central, you know, this is the star Ra was that star in the Pleiades. You know, that Orion, he's holding this little, he's got his hand out, and right in his hand is the Pleiades. And that one star there, according to the Egyptians, was the star Ra. And that's the star that they say this whole, our sun and Sirius and our whole star system just revolves around Alcyon, which today we call it Alcyon, but they called it Ra. So it's the light of the spiritual sun. It's a far greater energy than just the light of our sun. But this light, this Ra, is radiating out. And it radiates out from the house of Aleph, the All. And it finishes its turn in the cross, which is the covenant. And it goes around and around. There is no beginning and there is no end. And the next word is Bara. Well, in our language, we say created, as if that means that he took something and made it out of nothing. Or we took nothing and made something. It's impossible. There are no variables in zero. You cannot make something from nothing. You cannot divide zero. You cannot get something from zero. So you see, bara cannot mean nothing and then something. It cannot mean created. Bara is B-R-A. The first three letters of Bereshith, the beginning. It's the house radiating outward of the unknowable. See? Creation is a house, the physical universe that's just radiating. Because if you look that word up in Strong's, bara, it really doesn't mean, what is create? We don't even know what that means. It's just something we made up. But the word means to fatten, to expand, to grow. It's also used for cows. They used to fatten the cows. You don't create cows, you fatten them. So the word bara doesn't mean to create as we've understood the word. It means that from the great universe, it is expanding and growing. And we go on down to the word God, Elohim. That word is the Aleph, the Lamed, which is the support, the staff. And then you have the He and the Mem. See, the He is the man who's standing up and he's dancing for joy. He's got this great revelation. And the Mem, well, that's that word that's the letter that it means the waters, right? It's always the letter they use at the end of every word. If they want it to be plural, they'll put the Mem. Now, why would that be? Because we've said that Mem means the waters. Well, look in the book of Revelation. It says, and I saw many waters which means many peoples. The water means the many peoples, the many variables. So you see, we're all there in Elohim. The first letter is Aleph, the unapproachable, the unimaginable, the infinite. And we're supported with the staff. See, that's what supports us all. But at the very end of the word, this is a plural word, and it has the feminine mom, the mem, the feminine, the body. Remember, the body of Christ is his bride. So this is the aspect of the whole, which is the many. This is what the word means. And we've never understood what God is. He's incomprehensible, yes. But the word Elohim explains. See, it's not like you can't possibly understand anything about God. I mean, the Apostle Paul tries to explain this. It's just that the Father is in all, through all, and above all. He's in all. Jesus tried to explain this to us. So this is what the word Elohim means. And then we've got the fourth letter, or the fourth word, which is Aleph Tav. And we talked about that. He's there with Elohim. Now the next letter is the heavens. And that is the Hasa Ameim. It's two M's, two waters. Well, how do you get the heavens from two waters? Because you see, the waters that are below and the waters above are different. Because within that word Meim is that Shin. And that Shin is the fire or the crown or the exaltation. See? So the fire separates the waters from the waters. How does it do that? By evaporation. So you see there is that physical part of the waters, all the many variables on the ground. And then the fire exalts and lifts up the waters above. And that's heaven. And that's you and I in our exalted position there in heaven. And he saw in Revelation in heaven, and there was a multitude which no man could number. Because they see the waters, the many, are exalted to heaven. That's what the word heaven means. It's a beautiful thing. But you wouldn't know that or understand that if you didn't know the meanings of each of these letters. Remember how we understood what this nakash meant? Because it starts with the nun and ends with the sh, the spark, and the little nun or the seed or the little polywog that is your DNA. It's who you are. That's that little spark inside of you. That's what the serpent is. And so then you have the word and. And is very similar to that word Aleph Tav. It's got the two Aleph Tav in there. But it's also got the little hook, which is that tent peg. And that means to connect together, to hook it, and to connect it together. So here we are connecting the Aleph and the Tav, the many variable letters, all together with a hook. And that's why it's translated and. See, it's the hook. And now we go forward to bring all of this together. The understanding of all of this. The New Testament was trying to explain to us. There's something there about this word. It was with God in the beginning. It's like some sort of maze. It's like a parable. Something that we were never told. Basically, John's saying, go back to Genesis and look there right beside the Elohim and see who's there. It's the Aleph and the Tav. That's very important. You've got to understand the Aleph and the Tav. This is the great revelation. Christ looked at Peter and he said, Peter, who am I? And Peter said, I've got the revelation. You are the Son of the living God. You are all. And we're all part of this. And I understand and I'm recognizing. See, it was a recognition. Remember when Jesus was resurrected and he came to the disciples and he said, here, eat some bread. And as they were eating the bread and breaking it, he began to open up the scriptures. And it says their hearts burned within them and they recognized him. They began to recognize the Christ in the Word. And they began to understand and they began to notice that this little Aleph Tav that's not translated, that's the meaning of the whole book. That little word. That's Christ. When they recognized Christ, they began to recognize themselves. And then they began to understand each of the letters, these from Aleph to Tav, and it began to open up the whole scriptures to them. See, once you recognize Christ, the Word, and what that word is, the whole expression, and all these letters, and all the meanings of these words, then you realize that it's a revelation. Beginning doesn't mean, that somehow there was the beginning of time. And creation doesn't mean somehow you created something from nothing. But all of a sudden you begin to get the revelation that we are the children of the living, eternal God. And it's the revelation of the many in the Word, from the unapproachable Aleph. And then we come to the word earth, because you see, it's not just our exaltation to heaven, but it's our process while we're here on earth. And so we have the earth, which is the Hey, Aleph, Resh, Sadi. The Hey is that exuberant revelation. The Aleph is that unapproachable, infinite. The Resh is that exaltation, the crown, the fire. And the Sadi is that animal that it has two forms, okay? It's a little thing like this with the two horns. And it lays down, and then the other form is when it's standing up. See, when the power is conquered, it's laying down. But when it's standing up, it's a force to be reckoned with. And this is what the earth is. It's this power. It's this journey that we're on. It's this carnal nature that's in the earth. And it's that same beast that's in the sea in astrology, right? Capricorn with the goat with the two horns, with the fish tail. He's laying like that. He's got the little fish tail and he's got the two horns. That's what this letter Zadi is. And this is what we need to experience. So the great revelation of the unknown, the infinite, is rising up to exaltation over this beast, over this carnal nature. That's what the earth is. That's what the earth is for. It's the lower frequencies and forces, these very natures and these animalistic, the darkness that we're going through is the vibrations and frequencies that need to be exalted and raised up and overcome. And then we go to the word was without form. This is very interesting because we think of, first of all, it's something that's been recognized for a long time, is that here we are, according to our Bible, that the God creates the heavens and the earth. He creates them and then looks at it and says, oh, but it's without form and void. Now, why would our Father in heaven create something that's without form and void? And darkness was over the surface of the watery deep. What kind of a creation is that? Well, it's because we're not understanding the translation. The word form is the tav, toah. The tav and the hey and the peg. So the peg is that which hooks and brings everything together, right? Secures it. So we're securing this tav, or the life and death experience, this covenant. We're securing it in the hey, in the revelation. See, the revelation of this life and death experience is being secured. The form of all of creation is to secure this life and existence, this covenant, this cycle of life and death, Aleph Tav. So it's not that it's without form, it's that it's being formed. It's coming to a revelation. It's experiencing itself. Because you see, the next word is the void, or the empty. And it's almost exactly the same, but instead of bringing into manifestation the life and the death, it's hooking or nailing or securing the Beth. So the whole universe is being secured by this divine revelation. So this is a divine revelation, the emptiness and the void, or the emptiness and the form, the formlessness. So this is why we're having this emptiness, because we have this emptiness. We can seek the divine revelation of the universe, the Bet of the house. Because we have this formlessness, we seek the divine revelation of the Tav, the whole existence and life and death. We're seeking the answers of life and death. This is why in the middle of the wheel you've got M and N. that in, or the nun, or the little seed that is born in the darkness of the waters, goes down through the darkness, climbs up the other side, that little saddie that makes the struggle. We take on the nature of these dark forces. And then we receive our crown, our shin, and we experience the life and death cycle to its end, to the tav. And in this experience, we become formless. See, this is the story of Inanna that goes down into hell, and she goes down from 9 hells, and each time she loses something else about herself. She becomes more and more formless and empty. And we're going down into this becoming empty and void. And then all of a sudden there's this darkness. And this darkness is the Vav, the Shin, and the Kaf. See, the Vav is that peg that secures, that brings it into its position. And the Shin is that exaltation. And the Kaf is the reception. The exaltation of our fire crown, our Kether. The igniting of the chakras, the illumination of knowledge, the wisdom through this life and death. And as we die, it seems like darkness, but it's really light. This tree of the knowledge of good and evil is really the tree of life, because you see there are 2 trees in the middle of the garden, in the midst of the garden. It can only be 1 tree in the middle, because if there's only 1 middle, then there's only enough room for this 1 tree, because it's a large tree. And it has all these branches. But you see, the illusion is that when we eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it's going to give us death. But you see, we're going to live forever and become like God. We're eating from the tree of life. This death is just an illusion. This darkness is just an illusion. That's what we're learning from these letters. And then it says, was on the face, was on. Well, that word on is the ayin and the staff of support. And so what does it mean? It means that we see with our eye, we understand, and we're supported by this understanding. So we go forward with this revelation by being supported with this understanding. We're getting understanding. And the next word, the pei, or the face of the deep. The face is the pei nun, the mouth and the birth. So now we have the birth of the communication. You see, we understand, and now we're communicating. This is what it's all about. See, we were all there in the all, and now we've got to learn how to communicate. We've got to learn how to understand. And what is it we're understanding? We're going to understand the great deep, the depths of all of this insanity, all of these variables. When you go through life and you experience all of these things, don't you think, what does it all mean? You see, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't necessary, friends. You're learning the depth of all of these things. You've got to descend into the depths that you might ascend far above all things. And we've already found out that in this complete cycle, in the whole, not the beginning, but in this cyclical existence and the fattening and the progressing of existence and the unknown God being supported like a staff as we go down through the waters and we receive the revelation to the many. We've already begun to understand all of this. But now it's talking about getting down into these waters and it's saying, oh, we're beginning to understand with our eye. See, we talked about this yesterday when we started going through all the letters. And we got down into the water, and then the moon came out, the sin, or the samek. And the eye is next. After the sin is the ain. And after the ain is the pei. Because after we understand, then we can speak and communicate. And we can speak all these letters and put forth the word. And then we've got to climb out. We've got to, become this animal with horns, and we have to take up these dark forces and use this animalistic nature to climb our way through the sea. We've got to get out of there until we get our crown, our fiery crown of glory, and reach the cross. We willingly go to the cross. And then it says the face of the deep. What is the word deep? The deep is the ta, the he, the vav, and the mem. The ta, the he, the vav, and the mem. The ta is the cross, the covenant, the life and the death. The he is the jubilant dancing and revelation of the spiritual knowledge. And the vav is the peg that secures this revelation to the mem, or the many. And this is what the deep is, this great revelation that's being secured and brought down to the great many, the depths, and all the vibrations and variables. All this great knowledge has got to be brought down into the depths. And next is the Spirit, because it's the Spirit of God that moves upon these waters. But you see, I know that a lot of you are thinking, well, Dave, this is incredible. How do you know that you're not just making all this up? Every word that's in the Hebrew Scriptures can be understood clearly by knowing the meaning of each letter. Let me give you an example. God, Elohim, gave Adam fruit to eat. Well, in English, you would just read fruit and you wouldn't really know what that is. It's pari or para. It's the same word today in English. Most of all the things that we call fruit comes from that word. You know how P is sometimes a PH sound, and in some languages it takes on the F sound. This is why per is our fru. See? And prune, pear, berry comes from the same root word, para, berry. So this is what our Father in heaven gave us to eat. But what does it mean? Let's look at the letters. It is the word pe, which we said is the mouth, and the word ra, or resh. Now, here we can also determine that we are correct on the meaning of the resh. You see, in a lot of people's understanding, they say that resh means the head. But resh doesn't mean the head. It means ra. And the R and the little beak is the bird Ra, or the phoenix bird. As we said, the feathers are his radiating light. He's the sun that hovers and radiates over the world. And that was the god Ra. And that's why our word in Hebrew has the word R for light. Well, you know, we have to take in light. We have to eat. And so light, you get it in many different ways. You go outside and you bask in the sun and you get light and you get energy and you get strength. But you have to have light inside of you. See, when we eat food, it goes into our little cells and it goes in the form of some kind of energy, some kind of sugar. See, so fruit is made of sugar. And what happens? I mean, what's sugar for? It ferments into gasoline. It's energy. It's the fuel. So how do you get that fuel? Well, it's from the light. The little plants have these little satellites and they shine, you know, the sunshine reflects off of the leaves, and through photosynthesis it creates the fruit. And the roots, they pull up all the nutrients and the minerals. And through photosynthesis, we create fruit. And this is what we eat. So the pe is the mouth. And it means fruit is what you put into your mouth is the light. So it's energy. So you see, all of the words can be understood clearly by knowing the meaning of the letters. Peri is the light that goes into our mouth. Not the light that comes out of the sky, but the light that's in the fruit. What about the word garden? That's in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, right here where we're talking about. And it's very important that we understand what this garden is. But if you just look at the translation into English, you wouldn't know for sure exactly what it is. Well, if you know the meaning of the letter, you'll know exactly what it is. Garden is a bet, gimel, nun. The bet is the house. The gimel is the camel. That you go forward on the camel, travel. And the nun is that little seed. So what we're talking about here is the house that goes forward in birth. That's what a garden is. What about the word tree? Now, we've been saying that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is understanding. So we can learn all of the things that we need to understand right from the roots, the root words, and put them all together, and we're going to understand the whole existence. Well, in Hebrew, you've got an ain and a zadi, the eye and the little beast. So that's that carnal knowledge, the carnal forces. So the tree is the understanding of the carnal knowledge, the bestial forces. We've got to understand. You see, the tree is sucking up all of these carnal forces up from the earth, and it's growing, and we're learning. Or what about the word pain? You know, when the Bible says that the woman shall have pain. What is pain? What does it mean? Well, pain is Beth, Ain, Sadi, Beth. Beth is the house, or the universal house. So the universe is seeing or understanding the carnal nature, or this beast, Zadi, in this universe. The universe is understanding the beast, or the carnal nature. That's what pain is. When you experience pain, you're understanding, you're learning, you're having understanding of this whole universe and this carnal nature that all these variables that we're going through. That's what pain is. And the Bible explains that to you in the word, in the meaning of the word. But now, let's take the word living. This is going to help you understand just how important it is to understand the letters. Because in English, if you say living, we kind of know what that means. We're alive, but that's it. It just means that we're breathing, I guess. But there's much more to the word in Hebrew. Because the word in Hebrew is chaim. Cha, that's the fence. See, a fence is something that encloses. So you see, our life is something that's enclosed and separate from other lives. Now, after the cha, there's two yuds. And the yud is the hand of activity, or that which goes forth to do that activity. Well, there are two lives there. There are two yuds, because you're going to do things over and over again in your existence. So it's an existence of doing. And there are going to be many of these lives. You have a set of lives within your fence. And the two lives means that it's going to be more than one. You're going to experience a life after a life. It's written in the plural with the mim, because that's the many variables, the many peoples. And it's written in the plural to represent the fact that you're going to have more than one life. Remember when Cain murdered his brother, it says that Abel's blood cried out. Well, in the Hebrew it says his bloods. See, the life is in the blood, and he had many lives in his blood. So the word living is a plural word because we all have many lives. And this activity of the yud is repeated because you're going to have many lives. So you see, there is a whole lot to learn from the Hebrew and from the letters of the word. And friends, I think that we've probably gone quite a while talking in this video, and there's so much more to learn that you probably can imagine. Let's stop here, and then we'll take it up again in the next video. So friends, I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I think that there's probably a lot of you that are still wondering, is this really making sense? Well, stay with me, because it's going to make a lot of sense when we get all finished. All right, friends? This here is David Vos, and I hope you guys have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow.